Welcome to Contino Conversations. It's my pleasure to be here. I am Maureen McGrath. I'm a registered nurse continence advisor, and I am delighted to be here today with a patient who has experienced this very undignified condition of urinary incontinence. Good afternoon, Sten. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
You know, I was thinking when I introduced you to the Contino Conversation and I was going to talk about somebody with urinary incontinence, I was thinking, I wonder if people are expecting a woman to join the call, because this is a condition that is associated more so with little old ladies. Lots of pink packaging around pads and that kind of thing. But a lot of people don't realize that many, many men experience urinary incontinence, and it is just as debilitating to their lives and can cause isolation, increased laundry. It has a financial impact, and it also has an impact on dignity. So tell me a little bit about what you knew about incontinence before this condition entered your life.
Nothing. I was pretty normal, no problems. Uh, Never had a problem with incontinence or anything like that, or frequency. And then 2016, I was diagnosed with a cancer tumor in my pelvic area, and a little bit in the prostate, and some in the bladder. The bladder and the prostate were cleared up by radiation and a little bit of uh, surgery in the bladder, and that cleared up really quick. And after that, no problems. After the radiation, no problems. And then in 2019, the tumor was small enough that they were able to operate, because it's quite a complex operation. It was called a hemipelvectomy. They had to go and do a lot of cutting, nip the bladder a little bit, had to take out part of the pelvic bone, pubic bone, stuff like that. So, and then because of that, the bladder was started to sag a little bit, so a little bit herniated. So I had a lot of issues after the operation, and that was over 2 years ago now. After that operation, I experienced like incontinence continually, wearing a diaper all the time. Uh, didn't want to go anywhere. Um, I'd have the kids come over and stuff like that, but to go out and visit people, that wasn't an option, because you just didn't know when you had to change your diapers and things like that. It was off.
Exactly. I'm
And
so sorry you had to go through all that. That sounds horrific. And you must have been so grateful that you survived. But after the survival and realizing I've survived this cancer, and never expecting a condition such as urinary incontinence to now become a part of your life. So, what impact did urinary incontinence have on your life?
well, it almost isolated me. Um, I didn't want to go anywhere. Didn't want to go to restaurants. Didn't want to go for much of a drive, because you didn't know when it was going to happen. Um, One of the big things was getting in and out of a car. Anytime you, or even sitting down, you sat down. As soon as you got up, something was going to happen. Something was going to leak. You just didn't know how much. And so I was going through sometimes 3 diapers a day. Um, I went to my urologist, and he says, "Oh, it was the radiation." I don't believe him, because um, after the first bout of radiation, 33 bouts, um, up until the operation, which was 2 years later, I still never had a problem. Never a problem after the radiation. It was only after the operation I had the problem. And
Right,
so,
right.
you
How did
didn't
that
want to go
make
visit.
you feel? Yeah, how did that make you feel as a person? Sorry to interrupt.
Well,
But how did that?
it was embarrassing. it was, it's hard to say. It's just like you just felt inadequate or whatever. I mean, I wouldn't even, we didn't even sleep in the same bed for almost 2 years because I'd have to get up so many times at night. I would get up almost hourly for a while. And that wasn't fair to the wife because I'd wake her up all the time. So my sleep for about 2 years was, you know, hourly. I'd sleep, an hour, hour and a half at a time. If I had a really good sleep, it'd be 2 hours at a time.
Right.
You were always tired. The
Oh,
smell, you can, I hate to make jokes, but we always just say, what's 40 feet long and smells like urine. That's line dancing at the seniors home. Um, but you felt that way, and it's an awful feeling. You just
yes.
you don't feel good about yourself. And
Right.
Judy she was out doing everything. I didn't even want to go out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. It's so difficult. And I want to thank you again for talking about this very sensitive subject. You mentioned that you were up at night several times, and that's associated with a risk of falls and fractures. And of course, you mentioned that you and your wife were sleeping in separate beds, and that can have an impact on a relationship and an intimate relationship. And of course, the fatigue places you at risk for depression as well. I mean, it's just such a very, very difficult situation, and it's one that we need to talk about more, which is why I'm so happy to be
Yeah.
here at the Contino Conversation, and I'm so glad you've joined me as well. So, I mean, aside from thinking, will this ever end, or how is this going to end? What were some of the steps that you took to deal or to manage your urinary incontinence, and what was the effect?
Well, I'd do everything I could. The Kegel maneuver or the Keegan maneuver, trying to build up the muscles in the bladder, exercising. I did go to a psychologist just to try to get my head straight because I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be me for the rest of my life. And that wasn't a very good prospect,
Wow.
or a future, I thought. And like I didn't golf anymore. Nothing. You just couldn't go and do that without accidents. And so
Right. Did you wear pads as well?
no, just diapers. Pads wouldn't work. They weren't enough. They were a
Wow.
full blown
Wow.
diaper, like the big
Wow.
Depends diapers.
Right.
Yeah,
So
so
here
you'd
you
buy
are,
them
a
by the lot.
golfer. Here you are, a
Yep.
golfer, obviously physically active and wearing diapers. And they typically don't make us feel younger. Diapers typically make people feel older. And, it's a time of life. You're at a time of life that you want to enjoy your family. And I understand you have grandchildren. So, what did work for you?
I went to Speaking of the grandchildren, it was funny because the a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and when she was a little younger, I'm in there. I had to go change, and she comes running upstairs and he says, "Oh, you're wearing diapers," and she was out of diapers, and I'm going, "Oh,
Oh, yeah.
no."
Oh,
But anyway, what I did was I got a hold of the Bladder clinic at the cancer center in Abbotsford, where we live. They were quite helpful. They told me they did all sorts of tests, and then they, uh, tried to do the Keegan maneuver and stuff like that, which I did. And it didn't seem to help. And she says, I heard of a thing called a Contino, and that's the first I'd ever heard of it. And she says, why don't you look into that? So I says, okay, I will. And I thought about it for a while, and I talked to my urologist, and he didn't say too much. And they were talking about there's different ways, like a sling and another operation where you do an AUS, which is a um, uh, artificial urinary sphincter. Um, and after going through that operation, I just didn't feel like I really wanted another operation down there.
yeah.
Um, so uh, it was at least a year and a half ago now, I think, where I got a hold of the Ladner physiotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And, Nicole, uh, and made an appointment, went to see her, got fitted, and went through the routine, and we started doing it, but it still didn't work. Um, Getting fitted for me was tough because I had other issues. They first got the one they thought was the right size in, but then within a week I couldn't get it in. I couldn't get the smallest size in.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having um, what do you call it? Blockages. There was a like
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the term for it again. Um, in the track
Urinary retention or stricture?
strictures. I had strictures,
Mm-hmm.
and you couldn't get it in, and then we just kept trying and trying and trying and trying. Finally, um, this year, a few months ago, and then COVID hit, so we weren't going back again. Everybody was sort of locked down, so that sort of got put on hold. So it's been a bit of a journey, but the way I look at it now,
But
it's well worth it.
a worthwhile
Uh,
journey, I imagine. One thing I love about your story is that somebody just happened to mention Contino device to you. And when we share information with others and just give it a try. And look, it's sounds like it's working great for you. So tell me what life is like now that you are no longer incontinent, now that you can rely on your bladder.
yeah,
And I do want to get to a recent happy event that you and your wife went to that you may or may not have been able to go to in the past. So,
we finally we missed two weddings already because of that. And then this last weekend, we went to the shoe shops for our our niece's wedding, and I drove all the way. I'm driving now again, no problems.
it's
Uh,
amazing.
and you can tell when you have to go and you have to change the device, and I mean it's just so simple now. Whereas before it was like, oh, gotta do this, gotta do that, but it's pretty simple. It's basically in and out. No problems.
And,
There's
and
no
you're
pain.
dry. You're dry
Sorry.
now. You're dry now.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
leakage. Yeah.
I just wear a small little little tiny pad just
Mm-hmm.
just to be on the safe side, and you I'll wear that same one all day, and no problems. You'll have maybe a drop or two come out, but nothing really. It's quite. I was even up dancing, uh,
Wow.
you know, and I'm
That
I'm
is
out hitting.
amazing.
I'm out hitting the
It's
golf
it
ball again,
that
trying to
is
get my
just
game back.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for somebody to go from wearing diapers, and I imagine soaking diapers, getting up at night several times throughout the night, being tired, being lonely from isolation, also sleeping in separate beds. May I ask, are you and your wife back in the same bed now?
Yep. Have been
Yep.
ever since I got the last one fitted properly, and it works. Because if you don't get it fitted, what happens if there's a lot of pressure buildup? It does come out. It'll pop out.
Right.
So we finally
Yeah.
got the right size, uh, which was basically it was one size bigger than originally thought when I originally was measured. But for some reason, the strictures they just wouldn't allow it to get in.
Right. Right.
We
Yeah.
put, we just kept at it. The guys, Contino, the people were very helpful and gave me some hints and stuff like that. And I'll try this or try that, and it worked. It actually worked, and they were very supportive. Thank goodness, because I would have otherwise. I think I would have just given up. I
Yeah.
was going to say
Yeah.
this doesn't
I
work,
mean,
but it does work, and
and
I'm pretty
here you
happy.
even went to a psychologist. Here you even went to a psychologist. You took those steps to, so you can see how it must have affected your mental health. So what is
But
life like today now that you're able to go to events, you're sleeping through the night, I imagine, or at least much longer
Well,
sleeps, and you're
I'm
sleeping
getting
with your
up
wife?
once. Yeah, we're back in the same bed. I'm up maybe once. If it's a bad night, I'm up twice. And it's not that I get wet; it's just I got to go. And it all depends on if you've been at a party or something like that or whatever. A lot of fluid you might have taken in. But usually it's maybe once, maybe twice a night. That's it, and it's up. You go to the bathroom. That's it. You're back in bed again and back to sleep.
Isn't that
Uh,
nice? Isn't that nice?
my
Yeah,
wife,
that
she's a retired critical care nurse, and she she sort of got me to you better go see somebody because I was in a state of depression. She says I want you
yeah,
back again, and
yeah.
she's pretty damn happy about it because it affected her. It affects the whole family.
It
It's
certainly does. And
not
I'm so
me
happy for
being
you. I'm so happy that it worked. It's wonderful. I think it's a great motivator. A lot of couples sleep in separate beds for one reason or another. And so I think if you're experiencing urinary incontinence, Contino device is totally worth a try to get people back together again. We don't realize the impact that this condition that is rarely spoken of affects so many aspects of a person's life. And Sten, I really want to thank you so much for sharing your story. And so you're golfing again, you're dancing again, you're um, sounds like you're just having a great life right now, and your bladder is no longer affecting you or actually running your life. You're actually running your life now.
yeah, yeah, and it's a good feeling. And like I said at the onset, it sure beats the alternative. You have an operation, you put in one of those AUSs, which is a foreign body inside that they implant. And they said I may not even be a good candidate for it because of the other operation and the radiation. So
Right,
anybody with
exactly.
radiation, you got to watch exactly what you're able to have. And a sling, that just doesn't really cut it either because you never know if they're going to fail, and then you have to get cut open again. And that's not fun.
Exactly. So a nice conservative device, the Contino device. What would you say
Yeah,
to other men who are experiencing urinary incontinence right now?
I'd say go. I'd say run there. Really, uh, get, get your butt and go do it because it's worth it. I don't even feel it's in. You don't even know it's in until you're ready to void, and then you'll feel a little bit of pressure like you normally would, but sometimes I'll get I forgot to put it back in again because you just don't feel it. Once
Wow.
you do it very quickly, there's no pain, no discomfort, and you're wearing underpants again. You're wearing regular jockey briefs or shorts or whatever.
Right. Now, there is an associated cost with diapers. I know that they're very expensive. People spend upwards of $1,500 a year on those. How does that compare with the price of Contino?
Diapers, actually, when you break it all down, the Contino is a bit cheaper, but the convenience, I wouldn't care if it was twice as expensive because the convenience and how I feel about myself and what I'm able to do is more than worth it.
Of course, of course. And it's not just diapers, it's the landfills and
Oh,
the laundry and the additional work and the risk of falls and fractures and so I'm so happy for you. That's so great, and I'm so thankful to you for sharing your story today with others, so that others can be empowered and don't need to suffer. And you suffered for a long time, it sounds like, and
yeah.
so I'm so happy that you're no longer suffering and that you have found the Contino device and that it's working well for you. And thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Um, well,
Conversation.
I don't want want to sound like a commercial, but it has changed my life, and what I'm able to do again. We're looking forward to, once this COVID's over, we can travel again. I wouldn't even thought of it. There's no
Yeah.
way.
Isn't that nice?
I'd have
That
to
is
have an island like
fantastic.
the laboratory. That's not fun.
No, it
Excuse me.
isn't. It isn't.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. And traveling is tougher these days than it ever has been before. So, Sten, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate, and
You're
may you
welcome.
enjoy some more weddings and family events and
Yeah.
life in general as you move
Yeah.
forward with your Contino device. So, great to have
Yeah.
you. Great to chat to you today.
Yeah. And if anybody, is thinking about it, I would really urge them to give it a try and get fitted, because boy, it makes a huge difference.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. And you
you know,
mentioned, and it is a bit of trial and error for people with the Contino
yeah,
device. I understand that from other patients. And so that's something, to be expected. It's not
yeah,
going to work instantaneously for everybody, but it's a
no,
great option, and it's
yeah,
life changing.
yeah.
So
'Cause
great.
we're all different. Everybody's got different bodies. We're all snowflakes. We're all different. So, that's it is a trial and error, but if you're willing to give it a try, I think it's going to work, because it sure did for me. And I've got a lot of issues that cropped up that most people wouldn't have if it's just incontinence. I had a lot of other stuff going on.
Very, very important to note. Yes. All right. Well, thanks again. Great
Okay,
to chat to you. All right. And yeah, we'll be catching up with you another time soon.